Hello friends, welcome. In this session, I'm going to take up a practical example using Krishnamurti's Horary Astrology. In my previous video, I had explained some of the basic stuff related to KP's Horary Astrology. If you have not watched that video, I would strongly suggest you to watch that video because KP Horary Astrology has some new concepts and it makes at various places it makes a serious departure from the traditional horary or query or the Prashna Jyotish. So some of these concepts are new, which I had discussed in the previous video. So if you watch that video, that will be very helpful for you to understand this particular session where I'm going to take a practical example. Now the question that we are going to solve is about the sale of commercial property. This was asked by one of my friends, and she has a commercial property and she wanted to dispose of that. Now whenever somebody is asking a question, then there are some other concerns that are always built around that question. So for example, with this question, sale of commercial property, obviously the first concern is whether that person will be able to sell this property at all or not, and if one is able to dispose of the property, when this is going to happen, and then the deal around that the sale, will it go smooth or will it have some kind of roadblocks or difference of opinion, those kind of stuff. And finally, of course, when the deal is sealed and if the property is able to be disposed of, then whether the person asking the question will eventually get a good deal or not. So these are all concerns that are related to the main question. So let's quickly look methodically, step by step, that how to create a worksheet for answering a question using Krishnamurti Padhdhati, Horary Astrology. And in this session, I am going to share some of my experience that I have gathered over a period of time. You will not find those in Krishnamurti's books, but those are something that I have noticed and I would definitely share with you. Now this question was asked on this particular date and time, but it was taken up for judgment on this date and time. So in KP's horary method, this time and date is what becomes important for calculating the planetary position and the Mahadasha. So we are not concerned about this date and time. We are only concerned about this date, this time, and this place of judgment. And the number she gave me was 49 out of 1 to 249. So the first thing is to create a horoscope, a query chart based on this number. And this is the query chart. Now this ascendant Gemini is not coming from the time of asking the question or time of judgment. It's coming from this number, and this is a horary chart. And then another concept that is very popular in Krishnamurti's horary astrology is the ruling planet. So what are the ruling planet? Since this question was taken up for judgment on this date and this time, so what do is that we calculate the rising ascendant for this date and this time, which is the time of judgment, and we calculate the star for the rising ascendant, the placement of moon for this date and this time, and then of course the day. So then you get 5 different planets. These 5 different planets are called the ruling planets. So first one is Venus. Venus is what? Venus is the ascendant for Libra, which was rising at this time, and the ascendant was in Rahu star. So this is the order of strength. The strongest of the ruling planet is Venus, second is Rahu, Third is the moon star, which is moon. Fourth is the moon sign lord. Moon is in Virgo, so Mercury. And finally, fifth or the weakest is the day lord. It was a Monday, so moon is the day lord. Now, one of the things about the ruling planet is that we have to include Rahu and Ketu if any of these ruling planets are with Rahu or Ketu, or if they are aspected by Rahu and Ketu. Rahu anyway has come as a by default, it has come as one of the ruling planets because the ascendant is in Rahu star. And if you look at the planetary position for that date, then you find that Ketu is aspected by Moon and Mercury. So we will also take Ketu. So these are finally the ruling planets, and I'll explain you how to use these ruling planets. Now the second is the planetary table where you have to lay down the significators. I'll show you a couple of examples that how this is done. Most of these values have already been populated for just to save time, but I'll show you for Moon, Rahu and Ketu. Now Moon is the owner of the second cusp and the third cusp, and Moon is in 4th house. So Moon is signifying these houses. So first you write like this. Then in the star lord column, wherever you find Moon, you just copy and paste this value. Similarly, in the sublord column, wherever you find Moon, just copy and paste these values. This is how you do it for the rest of the planets. But Rahu and Ketu have a special rule, and that rule is that both Rahu and Ketu, they absorb the effect of planet with which they are conjoined, or if they are aspected with. And the third is the sign that they are occupying. So for Rahu, let's look at the rule. Rahu is with now we see that Rahu is with let's say Sun. So Sun is the owner of Sun in this query chart. If you look at Sun is only occupying 4th house, and it is also the ruler of the 4th house. So what Rahu is going to do is that it's going to absorb, or it's going to replace Sun, or it is going to give the result of Sun also. So this has come from Rahu representing Sun. Then Rahu is also representing Mercury. Rahu is representing Mercury. So Mercury we find is the ascendant lord and also the lord of the 5th cusp, and Mercury is in 4. So 4 anyway already we have written 4. So we write 1 and 5. This is from Mercury. Then similarly, if you look at Rahu is with Moon. So Moon is 2, 3 and 4. We have already mentioned 4. And finally, or then next we have to look at if Rahu is being aspected by any planet. So we don't find. Saturn is not aspecting Rahu, and no other planet is aspecting Rahu. And finally, the last rule is the sign occupied by Rahu. So Rahu is occupying Rahu is occupying Virgo. So Rahu is going to represent Mercury also. Mercury we have already taken because Mercury was already, Mercury is already conjoined with Rahu. So finally, these are the houses that Rahu is going to represent. So what we do is that we put this over here, then we look for Rahu in this particular column. We don't see any Rahu over here, but in the sublord column we have Rahu over here, and then we have Rahu over here. So what we'll do is that we'll put, so this is how the what Rahu is signifying by virtue of being conjoined with other planets, by virtue of being aspected by other planet, and lastly by virtue of sorry about that, by virtue of being occupying a sign, which was Virgo. And yeah, I finally forgot, and the position of Rahu, where the Rahu is placed. So Rahu is placed in fourth, since we have already taken fourth, so we will not repeat that number. Same we do for Ketu. Now if you look at Ketu, so Ketu is being aspected by, first Ketu is not with any planet. Now Ketu is aspected by Sun, Mercury and Moon. So Ketu is going to represent pretty much everything that Rahu is representing here. And apart from that, you will also note that Mars is aspecting Ketu. Mars has a 8th aspect. Mars has a 8th aspect on Ketu. So we are going to look at what Mars is going to indicate. Mars indicates 3 and 6. So we are also going to include 3 we have already taken. So say 6. And then finally the sign occupied by Ketu. So Ketu is occupying Pisces. So Ketu is also going to give the result of Jupiter. Jupiter is 3, 7, 11, and lastly, where the Ketu is placed. Ketu is in 10th. So we'll write 10 also. We've already taken 3, so I'm going to erase this one. So finally, this is what you get for Ketu. So Ketu is going to signify all these houses, and then again same way in the star lord column you are going to put these values, and in the sublord repeat the same thing. So I've shown you how to populate the table of significators. I showed you an example using Moon that you can replicate for rest of the planets, and for Rahu and Ketu, because since they have a special rule in Krishnamurti Padhdhati, so I've shown you how that rule is applied. And don't be afraid of Rahu and Ketu indicating so many houses. This is a very common scenario in the Krishnamurti Padhdhati. And so now we have the query chart, we have the ruling planets, and now we have the planet, the table of significators with star lord and sublord. Now the rule in Krishnamurti Padhdhati, our question was sale of commercial property. The rule in Krishnamurti Padhdhati is the sublord of the 10th cusp should be direct, and the star lord should also be direct, and the sublord should signify 3 or 10. So the sale is indicated by 3, 5 and 10. What does this mean? It means that sale will happen when the significator of 3rd, 5th and 10th house, the planet signifying 3rd, 5th and 10th house, operate jointly in the Mahadasha, then the sale will happen. And the giving position of the property is indicated by the combination of 3 and 12, which basically means that when the significator of 3rd house and the significator of 12th house, when they appear together in the timeline of Mahadasha, then the position can be given. Now the first thing is, in KP's Horary, first thing is you have to find out whether the particular thing is going to happen or not. And that was our basic question. Our basic question was that will it happen? Will the sale will happen at all or not? And the Krishnamurti's rule is that sublord of the 10th cusp should be direct and star lord should also be direct. So let's focus on the cusp. This is the cusp. So the 10th cusp is Saturn. Now in this the planets that we calculated, none of these planets is retrograde. All these planets are in direct motion. So the 10th sublord is Saturn, which is direct, and Saturn is in its own star. So the planet is in a direct motion, the star lord is in direct motion. So the first rule, the sublord of the 10th cusp should be direct and star lord should be also be direct. So we have seen that the sublord of the 10th cusp, Saturn, is direct and it is deposited in its own star. So this is all direct. So this is applicable. So that means sale can happen provided this should also signify the 3rd or the 10th house. Saturn should signify the 3rd or the 10th house. So let's look at the table of significator, and you find that Saturn is indicating, the 10th house. Saturn actually is the owner of the 10th cusp, and apart from that you can see Saturn is also aspecting the 12th house, which has a relation to giving away the position, and Saturn is also aspecting the 3rd house. So Saturn is in a way strongly connected, with all these houses. So both the rules are applicable now. The sublord of the 10th cusp is not retrograde and is not deposited in a retrograde star, and it is signifying one of the houses related to the query. So our first concern, whether this thing will happen at all or not, will the person asking the question, will she be able to sell her property at all or not? So the answer is yes. So that's one thing that we have already solved. Another thing I forgot to mention was that when you create a query chart, you will see that the moon, which is the karak for mind, will usually reflect about the nature of the query. This query was regarding property. So you see this moon is already in the 4th house, which is directly related to the property. So in most of the cases you will find that moon does reflect the nature of the query, and it gives you a good idea about what the query is. So we've already solved the first concern, whether the property she will be able to dispose of the property or not. So here our answer is yes, she will be able to do it. Now the next thing is when this will happen, and what kind of negotiation will happen. Will the negotiation go smooth? Those kind of concerns that are related to the main query. Now here I want to show you the significance of the cusp. In most of my videos I have been very reluctant to discuss about the significance of cusp in Krishnamurti Padhdhatis, because most of the examples in those videos I had used was for the birth horoscope, and I think in 1 or 2 videos I had shown that even 3 minutes or 4 minute difference creates a difference in the Cuspal sublord. So in a birth horoscope, since there is always some kind of a doubt about the exactness of the birth time, so that's why I have always been very reluctant about using the Cuspal sublord. But because since in the Horary astrology we don't have this kind of a constraint, when the question was taken up for judgment at that time, and especially these days, most of us, they have smartphones, so that always gives a very accurate time. So one can be very sure about the time, and in turn, then now what happens is that you get a very accurate table of cusp with all star lord and sublord. And in Horary astrology, I would strongly recommend to use the cusp. The Krishnamurti's real magic is in the cusp, and as you delve deep into the magic of the the Cuspal sublords, especially on the Horary side, you will be convinced for yourself that this is where the attention need to be given in the Cuspal sublord. I'll show you just a small glimpse of what I mean to say. Now the main question was about the sale of property that we've already seen from the 10th sublord, Cuspal sublord, that she will be able to sell her property. The other concerns were that whether the negotiation will go smoothly or not, and will there be any kind of roadblocks, will there be any hindrances. Now the negotiations, and this is how you look for details using the cusp. Negotiations are shown by the 3rd and the 9th house. Now if you look at the 3rd cusp, it is Rahu, and if you look at the 9th cusp, it is Rahu. The 3rd cusp indicates the negotiation that is going to happen on behalf of the person who is asking the question, and the 9th cusp represents the opposite party. So here you find that the Cuspal sublord for the 9th, for the 3rd and the 9th, both are Rahu. Now again, the property is generally indicated by the 4th cusp. So this is the querent, or the person who is asking the question. I'll use the word querent. This is the property of the querent, Saturn, and the 10th is the property, or the property that the other person is going to buy. Why? Because the other is indicated by the 7th cusp, and if you count from the 7th cusp, the 4th cusp becomes the 10th cusp. So you find that this is also Saturn. Another thing you find is that the Cuspal sublord of the ascendant is Saturn, right? And the Cuspal sublord of 7th is also Saturn. So the ascendant denotes the person who is asking the question, and the 7th denotes the person who is going to who is on the opposite side, the person who is going to buy the property. So the 1st and the 7th, they are the same. Saturn is the Cuspal sublord. The 3rd and the 9th, which represents the negotiation, they are also ruled by the same planet. And the 4th and the 10th, in one case the seller's property, and in the other case it is the buyer's property. They are also represented by the same planet. So what does this indicate? This indicates that both the parties are on the same page, they are on the same wavelength, and all the negotiation, deal, all conversation around it is going to go very smooth, because all these planets are same. So you can confidently tell the person not to worry about anything in the negotiation, because all these planets are same. So it does indicate the same kind of a wavelength, mentally they are same, on the same page, and there is no issue at all. On the other hand, suppose let's say the 3rd cusp sublord is Rahu, and the 9th sublord, Cuspal sublord, is let's say some other planet, and this planet is sitting in the 6th or 8th or 12th counted from Rahu in the query chart, then 6, 8 and 12 are deemed to be the bad houses. And if a planet is 6th, 8th or 12th from another planet, then it invariably brings in some kind of a disharmony or some kind of a argument or some kind of roadblocks, some kind of obstacles. So, but in this case, since these are all similar planets, so everything is going to go fine. But just for the sake of explaining that how you can use these Cuspal sublords to your advantage for finding out some more details, I gave you an example of how sometime negotiations, when they don't go smooth, what could be the reason. Now you should not, if you have a ninth Cuspal sublord that is sitting, or that is placed 12th to the third, it doesn't mean that the sale is not going to go through, because whether the sale will happen or not, we have already seen using this particular rule of KP. So sale is going to happen. Now just for the sake of details, we are trying to analyze that how the whole deal is going to be on the table. So the Cuspal sublord can be very helpful, and not only in giving you a lot of deep details, but when you are trying to find out the period when this deal is going to happen, at that time also these Cuspal sublord, they will come to your help. So I would strongly suggest that you pay a lot of attention on the Cuspal sublords. There's a lot of secret, lot of mystery hidden in these Cuspal sublords, and there is no surprise that the Bhaskaran's theory, which is built on top of using Cuspal sublords, called Cuspal sublords interlinks, gives a lot of importance to the Cuspal sublord. I'm not going to discuss Bhaskaran over here, but I thought I'll just mention it. So now we have seen that she will be able to dispose of her property, and she is not going to have any issue regarding any kind of negotiation. Now comes the difficult part. When this is going to happen, when she will be able to dispose of the property. Now the Krishnamurti's rule is that the significator of 3, 5 and 10, when they operate jointly, then the sale will happen and the property will finally go into the possession of the buyer when the significator of 3 and 12, they operate on the timeline. So let's look at look at the significators. I'll just copy this whole thing. I've copied the significator table over here so that you can see everything at one glance. So now we are looking at the significator of 3, 5 and 10. Now if you look at Ketu, yes, it has 3 and 10, it has 10 over here, it has 5 over here. So if you look at each of these planets, you will find that most of these planets have relationship with 3, 5 and 10. So, and this is also one of a very common kind of a scenario in the Horary astrology. So when you have so many planets appearing as the significator, then how do you eliminate the tempters and settle for the planets that are actually going to give the result? For this we have to use the ruling planet. So now we have seen, so what we have seen is that all these planets, all these planets are significator or are connected with 3, 5 and 10. And now we are trying to eliminate, and we are going to use the ruling planets. So now if you look at the dasha, you will see that at the time of judgment, the moon Mahadasha was going to end on, the question was asked in October 2015, and the moon Mahadasha is going to end on December 2017, and these are the sub periods. the Ketu Antardasha is going to end in maybe 10 days. This question was asked, the question was taken up for judgment around 10 days ago, and the Ketu Antardasha is going to end. And then you have the Venus Antardasha that is going to end in 2017, and then you have the Sun Antardasha. So now let's look at the Moon. Let's look at Ketu. Ketu is only for the 10 days. Now the deal is not going to happen within 10 days, but still sometime you have this dilemma that whether this thing can happen in next 10 days or not. So I'm going to explain this as well. I'm not going to leave out the 10 days of Ketu Antardasha, and because I also went through the same suspense, and I had no idea about what kind of deals were happening, and if it was going on a very fast pace, it could have happened in maybe a 7 days, 10 days time. So I'm going to explain this thing, and then we will look at the Venus Antardasha and then the Sun. Now if you look at the ruling planet, you find that Venus is the ruling planet and Moon is the ruling planet. Ketu is the ruling planet. Sun is not a ruling planet. Though Sun is a significator, Sun here is a significator of 3rd and it's connected with 5 also. So Sun is a significator, but Sun has not appeared in the ruling planet. So we will strike out Sun because it has not appeared in the ruling planet. And Venus, if you look at Venus, Venus is the strongest of the ruling planet. And another, there are couple of things in KP astrology that I would like to mention. One is that the role of the nodes, which is Rahu and Ketu. Krishnamurti has mentioned that the nodes are always stronger than the planets with whom these nodes are conjoined or are aspected by, or the sign they are occupying. So Rahu is with Moon and Mercury, we have seen in the chart. Ketu is being aspected by Moon and Mercury, as we have seen in the chart. So Rahu and Ketu, they are stronger than Moon and Mercury to give the result. But stronger than Rahu and Ketu is the planet who is deposited in the star of Rahu and Ketu. So let me explain this to you. Rahu and Ketu are stronger than Moon and Mercury to give the result because they are representative. They are representing, they have absorbed Moon Mercury's effect. But a planet who is deposited in the star of Rahu and Ketu. So if you look at the planet, these are the planets. So is Sun deposited in Rahu or Ketu star? No. Is Moon deposited in Rahu or Ketu star? No. Similarly, you have to ask this question, and finally you will find that Venus is deposited in Ketu's star. So Venus is extremely strong over here. If a planet is deposited in the star of Rahu or Ketu, then that planet becomes even stronger than Rahu and Ketu. That is what the whole idea is in explaining this. And Venus has also appeared as one of the ruling planets. So we know for sure, and apart from that, if you look at Venus is the owner of house 3 and 12. Venus is actually placed in 3, and it is the owner of 12th cusp. And so Venus is a very, very strong significator because our rule says that the giving position is indicated by 3, 12 and sale is indicated by 3, 5 and 10. So if you look at Venus, it's indicating 10, it's also indicating 12, it's indicating 3 also, it's indicating 5 also. So we can be very sure that Venus Antardasha itself should give the let this deal happen. Now before going to Venus, let's look at the Ketu period also. The Ketu is also very, very strong. If you look at Ketu, Ketu we have seen is in the 10th, which is one of the main or the main house for the sale of property, and Ketu is related to all the the houses concerning the uh, the the sale of property, except for the 12th. So I did ask my friend about some kind of deal happening, in the Ketu Antardasha. The the Ketu Antardasha ended within 10 days of asking him the question. But by looking at Ketu, I had this thing on my mind because the 12th was absent. All other things were appearing. So I did check with her, and she told me that there was a verbal commitment from the buyer, and the buyer was very keen. But still, we have to go through uh, the process of negotiation, and since this is a commercial property, so the buyer's team is going to do a assessment of the value proposition, and then there is going to be a due diligence regarding commercial license and all that. So obviously that's going to take some time, but when she asked the question, at that time itself there was a commitment from a verbal commitment from the buyer side, which we have seen from when we were looking at the Cuspal sublord. Then we had seen that the buyer and the seller seems to be on the same wavelength, and they are pretty much synchronized, and there seems to be a willingness on both the side. So that is about the Ketu. Now in the Venus, and Venus we have already seen that the Venus is very potential, and the deal should happen in the Venus Dasha, because Venus Antardasha, because after that there is a Sun Antardasha, and Sun is not a significant. So Sun is a significator, but Sun is not a ruling planet. Now within Venus, what period it could be? Can it be Moon, Venus, Venus? Let's first remove all the planets which are not the ruling planet. So we can remove Sun is not the ruling planet. Let me write these ruling planets here so that you can see it. Moon is a ruling planet, so we have retained Moon. Mars is not a ruling planet, so we have removed Mars. Rahu is a ruling planet, so let's retain Rahu. Jupiter is not a ruling planet. Saturn is not a ruling planet. So finally you end up with the Venus, Moon, Rahu, Mercury and Ketu. Now the first question that comes to your mind would be that why this deal can't happen in Moon Mahadasha, Venus Antardasha and Venus Pratyantardasha. Venus we have seen is very, very strong, and it also shows it's connected with all the related houses. It is deposited in the star of Ketu. It has come as a ruling planet. So why it can't happen in the Moon Venus period? Now there are two ways of looking at it. One is or eliminating the Pratyantardasha. One is based on the transit. That I will discuss in some other video, because explaining transit will need a lot of time. But there is one method that I want to share with you, and that is based on my own experience. When this planet becomes a significator and the sublord also becomes a significator, and at the same time if sublord is also in the ruling planet, the thing that I am telling you, you will not find in the books, and I am sharing this with my own experience, that when this planet becomes a significator and the sublord is also a significator, and at the same time it is also a ruling planet, then the chances are that this combination will give the result in the Mahadasha timeline. So let's say Moon Mahadasha is going, So we can, Moon Mahadasha is operating, so Moon, Venus, Jupiter. But Jupiter is not one of the ruling planets. So, and for this combination to happen, whether the deal could happen in Moon Dasha, Venus Antardasha, or Bhukti and Venus Prachantar, this should appear over here. That is what I am trying to explain. Since it has not appeared over here, and Jupiter is a very strong significator. If you look at Jupiter, Jupiter is a significator of 3 and 12. It's connected with all related houses. So Jupiter is a very strong, is a significator, but Jupiter has not appeared in the ruling planet. So we cannot consider Moon, Venus, Jupiter. And to answer the question that why this cannot happen in Moon, Venus and Venus, because Venus has not appeared as one of the as the sublord for Venus. So this is, you might want to look at your some of the queries that you might have solved, and you will see this pattern emerging. This I have noted in several of my the questions that I have solved, and that is what I want to share with you, because this question is always there. It's also called Swabhukti. The Swabhukti means the same planet appearing in the timeline as the Bhukti Nath and the Prachantar Nath. And so how to eliminate this? So Moon, Venus and Venus will not give the result. Thing will not happen. The deal will not happen, and the papers will not be signed during Moon, Venus, Venus. So now we can eliminate this also. Now the next question is about Moon, Venus and Moon. If you look at this, Moon has appeared as one of the ruling planet, and Moon is also the significator. So now the question that comes to your mind is that why it can't happen in Moon, Venus and Moon. Obviously there are two ways to tackle this. One is based on transit that we'll discuss later, and why we will eliminate Moon over here is because the Moon is absorbed the Moon, because the Rahu and Ketu, they have absorbed the result of Moon, and the Rahu is more stronger in giving the result of Moon compared to Moon itself. Same with Ketu. So we'll eliminate the Moon, and we will give more preference to Rahu, and we will give more preference to Ketu, and we have eliminated Moon, because whatever Moon has to give, the Rahu and Ketu will give it in a more stronger terms. So that's why we eliminated the Moon. So now we are left with Rahu, Mercury and Ketu. Okay, Rahu and Ketu we have already seen they are strong. Mercury is also has appeared in the ruling planet. Mercury is also one of the significators. And Rahu, if you look at the Cuspal sublord, then you find that Rahu appears in the 3rd, Rahu appears in the 9th. These are the houses of negotiation, and and Rahu by default appeared as one of the ruling planets, and by virtue of representing Moon, Mercury, it has replaced Moon and Mercury. So Rahu is very strong. So this is one of the period that I identified. And now the Mercury, if you look at the Mercury, whatever happened to Moon, same thing is going to happen to Mercury, because Mercury, you see Mercury, the Rahu represents Mercury over here, and since Mercury is aspecting Ketu, So both Rahu and Ketu, they are representing Mercury over here. So we'll eliminate Mercury and we will say that, and we'll retain Ketu. So these are the two periods that work out the best. So finally, what we got was Moon, Venus, either it should happen in Moon, Venus, Rahu, or it should happen in Moon, Venus and Ketu. So I gave my friend both the periods. Rahu was appearing as the Cuspal sublord for 3rd and 9th. So I told her that all your final negotiations, paperwork and all this should be pretty much done in the Rahu period, and maybe the deal is also done in the Rahu period itself. And the second period I gave her was the Ketu, because Ketu is also strong. In fact, Ketu is stronger than Rahu. This is where I would say you have to enhance your judgment skill. A few things can be kind of a, you can have a silver bullet kind of a rules, but you have to develop your own skill about ascertaining that which are the strongest. And sometime obviously you will get a black and white kind of a scene where you will immediately be able to find out which planet is the strongest. Sometime it's going to go into a gray area where you have to take the help of the Cuspal sublord, the ruling planet, and even the planetary sublord in finding out that which is the stronger. Here between Rahu and Ketu, the Ketu is more stronger. So I told her that during the Rahu period, because it has appeared on 3rd and 9th, your negotiations and everything, the official negotiation should all be done, and during the Ketu period, finally the whole transaction will be sealed and the possession will be given, and the buyer will be able to complete all aspects of negotiation, deal and payment and things like that. And that is exactly what happened. So this is how you have to analyze a horary chart. And then finally obviously the question was about will I get a good deal. This is also one of the concerns that was related to the main question. Now, to judge whether a person will be able to get a good deal or not, a very simple rule is there, Krishnamurti's rule, that if the planets which are representing the deal also represent these good houses, then the deal is going to be in favor of the person asking the question. And if they are related with houses like, then they are going to favor the opposite party. So let's look at the moon, whether the moon is, you find that moon is a significator of second house, and it is related with 6 and 11 in the sublord, and with the Venus, and between the both you have to give more importance to Venus. And same with Venus. If you look at Venus, Venus is very strongly indicating the 11th house over here, and the 11th house over here in the sublord also, and it is connected with other the second house also. So I told her that this is going to be satisfactory. One more thing I want to point out is that since the Venus is the Bhuktinath over here, and Jupiter is the sublord, and Jupiter is also here connected with the 11th house, so you have to look at the natural tendency of the planet. Now Jupiter is said to be a positive planet, and it gives satisfaction. So you have to blend this nature of Jupiter while telling the result. So I told her that this is going to be a deal, that she will be satisfied with the deal, and this will be a very nice deal without any issue, because of Jupiter, which is a positive planet. And so pretty much everything that was said came out according to what was analyzed, and the results given to my friend. She was satisfied. And now the last thing that I want to share is about giving the date. You can give the, if you look at this period, the Rahu's period, then this is from 26th of May to 25th of August. So that's about 3 months. You can also work out a date which is based on the transit. And I'm going to share the Krishnamurti's rules about the transit, which are given in his books. Are many places it are contradictory, many places it has a kind of a incompleteness. So I'll have to do another video because it is going to take a lot of time, and there I'm going to share my experience about how the transit can be used to pinpoint in some cases you can pinpoint the exact date. In some cases you can pinpoint about maybe a week or 10 days of time, and so that's a good level of accuracy. So that is all in this video, and I will try to do a couple of more videos, and because I want to show you the real magic of the Cuspal sublord, and I want to share my experience. So hopefully I will be able to do a couple of more. But in the meanwhile, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.